Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Daily English Learn. I'm Eva, and I'm here with my co-host, Mark. Today, we're talking about something that affects almost every English learner I've ever met. Mark, have you ever noticed how some students speak English really well at home or with friends, but the moment they're in a professional setting or talking to a native speaker, they just freeze?
Oh, absolutely, Eva. And you know what's interesting? It's not because they don't know the English. It's because somewhere along the way, they learned habits that actually make them doubt themselves. They second guess every word before it comes out of their mouth.
Exactly. And that's what we're focusing on today. We're going to help you identify the speaking habits that are quietly killing your confidence when you speak English. Not grammar mistakes, not vocabulary gaps, but the mental habits, the way you think about your English, the way you prepare to speak, and the way you react after you speak.
By the end of this episode, you'll understand why you hesitate, why you apologize too much when you speak English, and most importantly, how to stop these habits so you can speak with more freedom and confidence. So whether you're preparing for a job interview, getting ready to speak in meetings, or just want to feel more comfortable ordering food in English, stay with us.
All right, let's jump right in.
So Eva, the first habit we need to talk about is what I call the permission-seeking habit. This is when English learners constantly ask for approval before they speak or right after they speak. Have you seen this?
Oh, yes, all the time. Students will say something perfectly correct in English and then immediately add, "Is that right?" Or, "Did I say that correctly?" Even when there was no mistake at all.
Exactly. And here's the thing. When you do this, you're training your brain to distrust your own English. You're teaching yourself that you need someone else to confirm that your English is acceptable. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're in a meeting at work and you say, "I think we should focus on customer feedback first." That's a clear, correct sentence. But then you add, "Is that okay to say?" Or, "Does that make sense?"
Right. And what happens is the other person might have been impressed by your idea, but now they're distracted. They're not thinking about your suggestion anymore. They're thinking, why is this person so unsure? It shifts the focus from your message to your confidence level.
And the worst part is, this becomes automatic. You don't even realize you're doing it. So here's what I want you to practice. After you finish speaking in English, stay silent. Don't add any apology, don't ask if it was correct, just let your sentence stand on its own. If there's a real problem, the other person will ask you to clarify, but most of the time, your English is completely fine.
I love that advice. Let your sentence breathe. Don't rush to apologize for it. And listeners, I want you to notice this habit this week. Count how many times you ask for permission after you speak English. Just becoming aware of it is the first step to stopping it.
The next habit is closely related, but it happens before you even start speaking. It's the apologizing in advance habit. Ava, I know you've heard this one 1,000 times.
Oh, yes. Students start conversations by saying, "Sorry, my English is not good," or "Excuse me, I'm not a native speaker." And Mark, I always want to stop them right there and say, "Why are you apologizing? You haven't even spoken yet."
Exactly. And here's what's really happening when you do this. You're lowering expectations, yes, but you're also lowering your own confidence. You're putting yourself in a weaker position before the conversation even begins. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine two people walking into a job interview. The first person sits down and says, "Thank you for this opportunity. I'm excited to discuss the position." The second person sits down and says, "Sorry, my English is not perfect, but I'll try my best." Who do you think creates a better first impression?
Obviously, the first person. And the interesting thing is, both people might have the exact same level of English, but one person is framing themselves as capable and the other is framing themselves as inadequate.
That's the key word, framing. You get to choose how people see you in those first few seconds. So instead of apologizing in advance, I want you to practice confident statements. Not arrogant, just confident. For example, instead of saying, "Sorry, my English is not so good," you could say, "I'm happy to speak with you in English." Same situation, completely different energy.
I really like that reframe. And listeners, write this down. I'm happy to speak with you in English. Practice saying it out loud right now. Say it 3 times. Feel how different it sounds compared to an apology. This is the kind of sentence that changes how people respond to you.
And remember, the other person doesn't need your apology. They just need your communication. Focus on delivering your message clearly, not on justifying your accent or your grammar.
Now, Mark, let's talk about something that might surprise our listeners, the habit of over-preparing before you speak. At first, this sounds like a good thing, right? Preparation is important, but there's a version of preparation that actually damages your confidence.
Oh yes, this is a big one. This is when you're about to speak English and you spend so much time preparing the perfect sentence in your head that by the time you're ready to speak, the moment has passed. Or you get so anxious trying to find the perfect words that you just stay quiet.
Exactly. I see this happen in classrooms all the time. I'll ask a question and I can see students thinking. They're translating from their native language, they're checking grammar rules in their head, they're searching for advanced vocabulary, and meanwhile, 5 other students have already answered and we've moved on to the next topic.
And the truth is that I wish every English learner understood. In real conversation, people value speed and clarity more than perfection. If you take 30 seconds to prepare a grammatically perfect sentence, you've lost the natural flow of conversation. People start feeling uncomfortable. They start wondering if you understood the question.
So, what should you do instead? Mark, how do you teach students to break this habit?
Great question. I teach what I call the 3-second rule. When someone asks you a question in English, you have 3 seconds to start speaking, not to finish your sentence, just to start. Even if you start with something simple like, "That's a good question," or "Let me think," or "Well, I believe that." These are sentence starters that buy you time while you formulate your complete thought.
I love that. So you're speaking and thinking at the same time, not thinking and then speaking. Let me give you some more examples. You can start with, "From my experience," or "the way I see it," or "to be honest." These phrases don't mean much by themselves, but they signal that you're engaged and your brain is working on the full answer.
Exactly. And here's the beautiful thing. When you practice this, you'll find that the rest of your sentence comes naturally. Your brain doesn't need perfect silence to form English sentences. Your brain is actually very good at speaking and thinking simultaneously. You just need to trust it.
And listeners, if you're worried about making mistakes, remember this. A simple sentence delivered confidently is always better than a perfect sentence delivered nervously or not at all. Always.
All right, Eva, now we need to talk about what happens after you finish speaking English. And this habit might be the most damaging one of all. It's what I call the post-conversation replay habit.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. This is when you finish speaking English and then you spend the next hour or even the next few days replaying everything you said, finding every mistake, criticizing yourself for every awkward pause.
Yes, and listeners, tell me if this sounds familiar. You have a conversation in English. Maybe it's a video call with a colleague, or you speak to someone at a cafe, or you give a short presentation. And afterwards, you immediately start thinking, "Oh no, I should have said this word instead of that word," or "Why did I use the wrong verb tense?" or "I sounded so stupid when I couldn't think of that word."
And what happens is you turn a successful conversation, a conversation where you actually communicated and the other person understood you, into a negative experience in your memory. You convince yourself that you failed, even though you didn't.
Exactly. And this is so important to understand. When you keep replaying your mistakes, you're not learning from them. You're just reinforcing anxiety. You're teaching your brain that speaking English is stressful and dangerous. And what does your brain do with dangerous activities? It tries to avoid them.
So over time, this habit makes you speak English less, not more. You start avoiding opportunities because you don't want to feel that post-conversation stress again. And that's the opposite of improvement.
So what's the solution? 2 things. First, immediately after you finish speaking English, I want you to identify one thing you did well. not everything you did wrong, one thing you did right. Maybe you successfully explained a complex idea. Maybe you made the other person laugh. Maybe you stayed calm even when you couldn't find a word. Find one success and acknowledge it.
I love that practice. It balances your perspective. Yes, maybe you made some mistakes, but you also did something well. And here's the second practice I recommend. Set a time limit on post-conversation analysis. Give yourself 5 minutes to think about what you could improve. Write it down if you want, but after 5 minutes, you're done. Move on with your day. Don't let it consume your evening.
That's excellent advice, because the truth is, the other person in your conversation probably doesn't even remember your mistakes. They remember your message, your kindness, your ideas. They don't have a recording of your grammar mistakes playing in their head. Only you do. So stop giving mistakes more power than they deserve.
Mark, the last habit we need to discuss today is the comparison habit. And this one affects not just English learners, but really anyone learning any skill. But it's especially damaging when learning a language.
Oh, yes. This is when you constantly compare your English to other people's English. Maybe you're in a class and you compare yourself to the student who speaks the most fluently, or you watch videos of English speakers online and think, I'll never sound like that. Or you hear your colleagues speaking English and you feel bad about your own level.
And the problem with this habit is that it's based on a false comparison. You're comparing your current stage of learning to someone else's final result. You're comparing your chapter 3 to someone else's chapter 20. It's like comparing yourself learning to ride a bicycle to someone who's been cycling for 10 years. Of course they're better. They've had more time.
Exactly. And here's something that many English learners don't realize. That person you're comparing yourself to, that fluent speaker, they probably also feel insecure about their English sometimes. Maybe they compare themselves to native speakers. Maybe they worry about their accent or their vocabulary. Everyone is on their own journey.
That's such an important point. And I want to add something else. When you compare, you only see the surface. You see someone speaking fluently, but you don't see the hundreds of hours they spent practicing. You don't see their mistakes from last year. You don't see the times they felt embarrassed or confused. You only see the results, not the process.
So what should you do instead? Compare yourself to your past self. Ask yourself, am I better at English today than I was 6 months ago? That's the only comparison that matters, because if the answer is yes, you're on the right track. If the answer is no, then you need to adjust your practice routine, but it has nothing to do with other people.
I really want our listeners to understand this deeply. Your English journey is yours alone. Someone else's success doesn't make you less successful. Someone else's fluency doesn't make you less capable. Focus on your own progress, celebrate your own improvements, and remember that every single fluent English speaker was once exactly where you are right now.
Beautiful. And listeners, I want to give you a practical exercise for this week. Every day, write down one thing you can do in English now that you couldn't do 3 months ago. Maybe it's understanding a movie without subtitles. Maybe it's having a conversation with a stranger. Maybe it's writing an email without using a translator. Build evidence of your own progress and stop looking sideways at other people's journeys.
So let's quickly recap what we've covered today, because these 5 habits are so important to recognize and change. The first habit is constantly seeking permission or approval after you speak. Stop asking, "Is that correct?" after every sentence. Let your English stand on its own.
The second habit is apologizing in advance for your English. Remember, people don't need your apology. They need your communication. Replace apologies with confidence statements like, "I'm happy to speak with you in English."
The third habit is over-preparing to the point of silence. Use the 3-second rule. Start speaking within 3 seconds, even if you begin with a simple phrase to buy yourself time while you think.
The fourth habit is replaying conversations and focusing only on mistakes. Instead, identify one thing you did well and limit your post-conversation analysis to 5 minutes. Then move forward.
And the fifth habit is comparing your English to other people's English. Compare yourself only to your past self and celebrate your own progress without measuring it against someone else's journey.
These habits might feel comfortable because they're familiar, but they're quietly damaging your confidence every single day. The good news is that habits can be changed. It takes awareness, it takes practice, but it absolutely can be done.
And remember, speaking English confidently isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing to communicate, to make mistakes, to learn, and to keep going. Your accent is fine. Your grammar will improve. Your vocabulary will expand. But your confidence, that's something you can choose to build right now, today, in this moment.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us on Daily English Learn. If this episode helped you, please share it with another English learner who might need to hear this message.
Until next time, keep practicing, be kind to yourself, and remember, your English is better than you think it is. Take care, everyone.
Bye for now.